Picture this. The year is 1274. Over 900 Mongol warships darken the horizon off the coast of Kyushu, Japan. Tens of thousands of soldiers, battle-hardened veterans of the most fearsome military empire the world has ever seen, load their catapults, sharpen their blades, and prepare to do what they have done to every kingdom from China to Persia: conquer, crush, and consume. The samurai defenders on shore are brave, but they are outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of time. History tells us that a divine wind, a kamikaze, eventually arose and shattered the Mongol fleet, scattering the would-be invaders across the ocean floor. But history had no say in what happens when one blindfolded, white-haired sorcerer decides to show up fashionably late to a naval invasion. Forget the storm. Forget the samurai. What if the most powerful jujitsu sorcerer who has ever lived, Gojo Satoru, stood on that beach instead? Spoiler alert, the Mongols should have stayed home. To understand just how catastrophically one-sided this fight would be, you first need to understand exactly who and what Gojo Satoru is. In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, Gojo is not simply a strong fighter. He is a walking, talking, occasionally insufferable paradox of physics. He was born with two of the rarest and most devastating abilities in the entire Jujutsu world: the Six Eyes and the Limitless technique, and no sorcerer in recorded history had ever possessed both at the same time. The Limitless technique gives Gojo total, absolute control over space itself at the atomic level. With infinity, an invisible, autonomous barrier perpetually surrounds his body, infinitely decelerating any object or force that moves toward him. Arrows, cannonballs, blades, fists, it doesn't matter. Nothing reaches him. Nothing has ever reached him. He is, for all meaningful purposes, untouchable. But defense is only half of his terror. His offensive capabilities are so catastrophically overpowered that his own allies treat them as natural disasters rather than attacks. Hollow Purple, his most devastating technique, involves generating two opposing forces, red and blue, and colliding them to produce an imaginary mass that erases everything in its path. Not destroys, not damages, erases. And atop all of this, Gojo can activate Unlimited Void, his domain expansion, which traps every conscious mind within range in an infinite flood of simultaneous sensory input, rendering them completely incapacitated in an instant. Now take all of that and point it at 900 wooden warships filled with soldiers who have never once encountered a cursed spirit, let alone a six-eyes sorcerer. The math here is not complicated. The first Mongol ships make landfall just before dawn. Arrows begin to rain down on the shore in coordinated volleys, a signature Mongol tactic designed to suppress defenders and allow infantry to advance. The samurai brace. And then, walking calmly down the beach with his hands in his pockets, sunglasses gleaming in the early morning light, Gojo Satoru sighs like a man who has been mildly inconvenienced. The arrows reach him.
Gojo rolls his neck, cracks his knuckles, and decides it's time to stop being patient. He raises one hand toward the nearest cluster of warships and activates Blue, a concentrated point of negative gravitational energy that pulls everything around it violently inward. 3 Mongol ships in the front line crumple like paper, their hulls folding into themselves, wood and rope and iron collapsing toward a single invisible point before exploding outward in a shower of debris. The soldiers around him on the beach watch in stunned, open-mouthed silence. Gojo is already bored. The Mongol commanders, to their immense credit, do not immediately retreat. They are veterans of campaigns against the Song dynasty, the Persian Caliphate, and the kingdoms of Eastern Europe. They have faced elephants, Greek fire, and fortified castle walls. They adapt. They order their firebomb catapults, one of the Mongols' most feared technologies, capable of launching explosive shells that terrified samurai forces, to open fire simultaneously. A dozen flaming projectiles arc through the morning sky in a perfect coordinated barrage, enough to level a fortress wall. Every single one of them decelerates to a near standstill within inches of Gojo's body and hangs there, burning harmlessly, before he flicks them aside like embers off a campfire. He tilts his head. He smiles. Is that it? What happens next is not really a battle. It is a reckoning. Gojo Satoru removes his blindfold. The six eyes open fully, perceiving cursed energy with perfect clarity across every inch of the battlefield. And the battlefield, in this moment, stretches across the entire bay. He sees every ship, every soldier, every catapult, every arrow, every terrified commander gripping the railing of his vessel. He sees all of it simultaneously, processed with a precision no human mind should be capable of. He exhales. He draws both red and blue to their maximum output and drives them together. Hollow purple tears across the surface of the water in a wide, sweeping arc. The technique does not explode. It does not burn. It simply unmakes. A corridor of absolute erasure cuts through the center of the Mongol fleet. Ships cease to exist where it passes, the water itself temporarily hollowed out before rushing back in with a roar that sounds like the ocean itself screaming. What remains of the fleet, the ships on the outer edges, the ones that survived, immediately breaks formation. Sails go up, oars hit water. 9 centuries of military discipline dissolves in under 30 seconds as sailors and soldiers alike flee with a desperation that no enemy army had ever provoked in them before. And just like that, the invasion is over. No divine wind needed, no heroic last stand, no typhoon rolling in from the heavens. The Mongol commanders, if any survive long enough to report back to Kublai Khan, would struggle to find the words. How do you explain to the most powerful ruler on earth that his 900-ship armada was turned back not by a storm, not by an army, but by one man, who never stopped smiling, never broke a sweat, and was already walking back up the beach before the last ship disappeared over the horizon? History gave Japan the kamikaze to save it in 1274, but if Gojo Satoru had been there, Japan wouldn't have needed a miracle. It already had one, and he was 6 feet tall, blindfolded, and catastrophically overqualified for the job.